Have you ever wondered how the current US flag design ever came to be? Well, want to know more? Because it turns out it was designed as part of a high school project, and the kid who made the final design received only a B- for his efforts. In his own words, shortly before he died on December 12th, 2009, Bob Heft recounted to StoryCorps the tale of his design being chosen among 1,500 bid to become the 27th and the longest-running official US flag. I had absolutely no idea that you changed the flag so recently. Anyway, to quote him, in an American history class, we had to do an outside-of-class project. We could make or do whatever we wanted, like a science fair or something like that, where you bring your project in. The Betsy Ross story intrigued me. My mum and dad had a 48-star flag they received as a wedding present, which, of course, meant a lot to them. Well, I took scissors and cut it up. I had never sewn in my life. I watched my mum sew, but I'd never sewn. And since making the flag of our country, I've never sewn again. So anyhow, we get to class. I had my flag on my teacher's desk. The teacher said, "What's this thing on my desk?" So I got up and approached the desk, and I'm shaking like a leaf, and he says, "Why have you got too many stars? You don't even know how many states we have?" He had added more for the potential new states of Alaska and Hawaii being added to the US, and he gave me the grade of a B-. Now, a B- wasn't a bad grade. However, a friend of mine, Jim, picked up 5 leaves off the ground. He's taping those leaves down to a notebook and labeled them elm, hickory, maple, and the teacher gave him a grade of an A. Naturally, Hefty was not too pleased with the grade given the effort that he put in compared to his compatriot, and states when he tried to argue with his teacher about it, his teacher said, "If you don't like your grade, get it accepted into Washington, then come back and see me, and I might consider changing your grade." 21 letters and 18 phone calls to the White House later, and giving the flag to Congressman Walter H. Moeller, who went on to promote it, and 2 years later, he was successful, stating, "I got this call, and they said, the President of the United States is going to call you later today." President Eisenhower then called him up and invited him to Washington, D.C. for a 4th of July dedication to the new flag of Heft's design. Though given the time that had passed, it was no doubt not official. He states his teacher then said, "I guess if it's good enough for Washington, it's good enough for me. I hereby change your grade to an A." Does this really matter? It's been, years? And if you're wondering here, the primary change made in Heft's design over the previous flag design was simply in the layout of the stars. In Heft's design, he changed the 6 rows of 8 stars that 1 year later would become 7 rows of 7 stars to an arrangement of alternating 5 rows of 6 stars with 4 rows of 5 stars. While one can see how his teacher would have given him a low grade for such a minor change, Heft felt this would be critical to getting the flag accepted. The thing is to add stars so no one can tell there is a change in the design. 2 years after he made it, and just 1 year after the 49-star flag was adopted thanks to the addition of Alaska in January 1959, Heft's 50-star flag was made the official US flag design on July 4th, 1960, with Hawaii becoming a US state in August 1959. This was no doubt the biggest 2-year boon in flag sales in US history, with the design changing twice during that span. In addition to designing the current flag, Heft also designed a 51-star flag ready to be proposed should the need arise, such as should Puerto Rico ultimately do so, with, for example, a non-binding referendum in 2017 where 97.7% of the 23% of Puerto Ricans who voted being in support of statehood. Though there was a bit of a sample set skew given a couple of major parties against statehood boycotted the vote rather than officially voted their opposition. That doesn't sound like a particularly effective way to oppose. In any event, Heft designed and made this 51-star version just a few weeks after completing the 50-star one. In his 51-star flag, it has 6 rows alternating between 9 and 8 stars. When he died, he gave this 51-star flag to Representative Clarence Miller of Ohio to submit should a new state be added to the Union. If it is eventually accepted, it will make Heft the first person to ever design 2 US flags. And now let's get into a bonus fact. Ever wonder who came up with the US Pledge of Allegiance and how it became a rather bizarre thing in schools, including in the early going featuring what would be called the Bellamy Salute, think later Nazi salute? Well, want to know more? It turns out the US Pledge of Allegiance was written by a socialist Baptist minister named Francis Bellamy in 1892. It was published in a popular children's magazine of the time called The Youth's Companion as part of the 400th anniversary celebration of Christopher Columbus arriving in the New World. The celebration itself was the brainchild of James B. Upham, a marketer for the magazine who made it his business to foster a sense of patriotism in the youth of America. Upham's goal was to, quote, instill into the minds of our American youth a love for their country and the principles on which it was founded, and create in them an ambition to carry on with the ideals which the early founders wrote into the Constitution. Francis Bellamy intended for the pledge to be brief and to the point. He was also leaning towards using the words equality and fraternity, but realized that probably wouldn't fly, knowing the committee members he'd have to get the approval of were against equal rights for all. Bellamy recalled that when he wrote the pledge, feelings of patriotism were at an all-time low. He, Upham, and their cohorts felt that the place to rekindle feelings of national pride was in the classrooms, so Youth's Companion came up with a plan to sell flags at cost to public schools through their students. The ploy was so effective that 25,000 schools acquired flags in just 1 year. Bellamy and Upham managed to secure the Nation Education Association's support as a sponsor for the Columbus Day event, and by June 1892 they had convinced Congress and President Harrison to make the public school flag ceremony the highlight of the Columbus Day festivities. The pledge was then used in public schools starting on October 12, 1892, to sync with the opening of the World Columbian Exposition going on in Chicago, Illinois. As for the original salute and pledge, Bellamy instructed, at a signal from the principal, the pupils in ordered ranks, hands to the side, face the flag. Another signal is given. Every pupil gives the flag the military salute, right hands lifted, palm downward, to align with the forehead and close to it. Standing thus, all repeat together, slowly, I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At the words, to my flag, the right hand is extended gracefully, palm upward, toward the flag, and remains in this gesture till the end of the affirmation, whereupon all hands immediately drop to the side. And I'll just comment here that as a British person, this is quite strange. It would be like us singing in schools like God Save the Queen, which we definitely don't do, and in fact, I don't even know the words to, and I don't think most people do. In 1923, the first changes to the text of the Pledge of Allegiance were made, much to the consternation of Francis Bellamy, who thought the new wording completely ruins the flow of his original work. The National Flag Conference insisted that the two words "my flag" be replaced with "to the flag of the United States." This was to prevent any confusion among new immigrants between loyalties to their countries of origin and their new home. This addition of the words "of America" would be tacked on a year later. It wasn't until nearly 2 decades later that the United States Congress first officially recognized the Pledge of Allegiance on the 22nd of June 1942 in the following form. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You traitor, Simon! It was around this time in December of 1942 that the salute part was dropped because of the whole Nazi thing, and instead, hand over heart was accepted. Starting as early as 1948, efforts were being made to add the words "under God" to the pledge, with one of the first to add it being the chaplain of the Board of Governors of the Illinois Society of the Sons of the American Revolution, Lewis Bowman. For this, the Daughters of the American Revolution saw it fit to present him with an award of merit for originating the idea of adopting "under God" to the pledge. The Under God movement gathered steam with a resolution drafted by the Knights of Columbus during the Korean War in April of 1951, calling on all members to add "under God" to the pledge when recited at the opening and closing of meetings. Finally, with the Red Scare at its zenith, legislators were lobbied by religious leaders, the American Legion, and the Hearst newspapers, voicing concern that communist rhetoric is uncomfortably similar to the Pledge of Allegiance as it was then worded. A bill to add the words "under God" to the pledge was then introduced to the House and was supported by President Eisenhower, who signed it into law, and obviously that dealt with the whole communism problem. In this way, we are reaffirming the transcendence of religious faith in America's heritage and future. In this way, we shall constantly strengthen those spiritual weapons which forever will be our country's most powerful resource in peace and war. It's all well and good, but what if you don't believe in any God at all? The latest version then reads as follows. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since then, quite a bit of controversy has been stirred with the addition of those two little words, unsurprisingly. On top of that, over the past decade or two particularly, there has been a huge upsurge in the amount of legal action taken pertaining to the appropriateness of children being encouraged, read strongly peer-pressured in some cases, to recite the pledge in school, particularly as most of the kids don't really understand what they're saying anyway. Further, some children that have refused to participate in saying the pledge, whether because their parents told them to or simply because they chose not to, occasionally have been ridiculed in class by their teachers for their choice. Slightly ironic when you think about it, given the whole liberty for all part presumably includes the freedom to not say the pledge, and I would say that is slightly more than slightly ironic. Anyway, this has been Today I Found Out. I've been Simon. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Smash that like button if you did. Subscribe, all of that good stuff. Oh, I've got a channel, a different channel. It's called Business Blaze. It's a little bit more laid back than this. You can find it linked to below. Thank you for watching.